Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and I just got back from the new film Lucy. Lucy is directed by Luc Besson and his Europa Corp company. They've produced tons of genre B action films. Lock Up, recently 3 Days to Kill, Taken, the Transporter films, and they can be fairly good at it at times with things like Taken, and then fairly awful at it at other times like Taken 2. Luc Besson, I don't think, has been a director anyone particularly likes, and he's probably more known now for being a producer than a director. Some of this film is some of the best stuff he's done since The Fifth Element. A lot of this is some of the best stuff Europa Corp has done in a while, at least when it's having fun at the beginning of the film and it doesn't take itself too seriously. Combining the idea of something like Limitless with an action movie. Limitless is a fine movie if you're homesick and you're laying on the couch, kind of a dumb, stupid comfort movie, but Lucy has a little more fun with it. You know, Luc Besson pushes the character of Lucy into various situations, so there has to be an action sequence. That makes for a far more entertaining film at times, but as the film goes on and as she gains more intelligence, it's like the film loses more of the humanity that made it fun in the first place, just like the character of Lucy does throughout the film. Scarlett Johansson, whose boyfriend who needs to deliver this case in a hotel room, he doesn't want to go in, so he tries to send her, and then he gets killed and she becomes a drug mule for this new super drug that they just invented, and they put it in her tummy, and they're about to send her away, but then she's in this weird room in Taiwan, and the guy starts getting frisky with her, and she says, you know, no, please don't do that, and then he kicks her in the stomach a bunch of times, and these new drugs leak into her system, and then suddenly she becomes super smart, and she can use more than 10% of her brain. And as the film goes on, it has title cards to show you how much more of the percent of her brain that she can access now with this powerful super drug. She goes on and tries to find the rest of the drug mule so she can get the rest of this super drug and try to kill the man played by Min-sik from Oldboy and I Saw the Devil, and who was the man who put this in her tummy in the first place, and goes after her to make her pay for stabbing him and ruining his drug operation. While I was watching this film, I was having fun at the beginning, and I think Lucy, and with Luc Besson, he's a director who, when he is super stylized, can be having enough fun that he's kind of convinced you this is an enjoyable, decent movie, even though it's a fairly stupid, fun, enjoyable movie. I don't know about decent. Then as I was watching it, I was like, you know, when you think of a particular action star, and in this film's case you have Scarlett Johansson, who as an action star is best known for playing Black Widow in the Marvel films, being this kind of kick-ass fight choreography superhero. And in this film there really isn't any of that. It kind of breaks with the Europa Corp mold. You know, they wouldn't make a Jason Statham movie where he isn't doing Jason Statham things. They're not going to make a Taken film where somebody gets taken and Liam Neeson has special skills and whatnot. And then in Lucy, they have this high concept idea, but unlike in Limitless, actually, where there is a kung fu sequence, she doesn't do that. She does a lot with guns, you know, she can do crazy stuff with her mind, but there isn't any particular really memorable action sequences in this, mostly because I think they're not really harnessing what makes Scarlett Johansson an effective action star. They're kind of ignoring that for this concept. This concept is really important to Luc Besson, even though it defies logic, because the whole 10% brain theory is really an urban legend and not true. But if you're thinking about logic with a Luc Besson or a Europa Corp film, you've already kind of failed. These are films that mainly exist to have action sequences, and even push them through when maybe the film's trying to move on to other things, which is really to its detriment. This film kind of tries to evolve and show how she's getting smarter and she can do all this crazy shit, and it gets into more of a 2001 thing. That is really when the film loses me, and I think it loses the audience as well, because really, why did anyone want to see this movie? They wanted to see Scarlett Johansson kick butt, and they wanted to see Scarlett Johansson in a lot of cool action sequences, and I don't think this film really delivers that. It's delivering this concept that we've seen before, and in some ways it's more enjoyable at that concept in certain scenes. It reaches heights that Limitless certainly was limited in trying to get across. This film feels a lot more fun, and it actually has kind of a 60s feel about it. Certainly the editing at the beginning, and especially, you know, all the 2001 and stupid philosophy stuff. I'm not sure if Luc Besson has such a crazed ego he thinks that humanity could access this amount of knowledge in their brain and become super smart and take over the universe and whatnot, or he just loves the concept and kind of went with it. They're kind of at odds with one another, because if he had just placed a cool action movie with this dumb concept, I think that's what everyone wanted, then this would have been a really enjoyable movie. The problem with this concept is whoever's making a film about someone who gets gradually smarter and smarter doesn't really know where to take it, except to a really bizarre place that, like, at a certain point while you're watching it, you're like, oh god, you know, what's going on? If you change the channel and change back later in the movie, you'd be like, oh god, really? That's what happens? Well, I'm glad I changed the channel. And then you change the channel and never come back. And that's essentially what happens in the third act in Lucy. I mean, I think there's kind of an interesting action sequence going on while it's doing its kind of stupid philosophy, blowing your mind stuff with how if the brain's pushed to 100% it can do all this stuff. And there's parts that are like, oh, okay, that was a little fun. But as I was watching it, I realized I didn't even like the stuff before. It's not really essentially that memorable. It's not that great of an action movie. And I think Luc Besson, he's a lot of hype, and he made some decent action movies like 20 years ago, but it's been a while since then. And as I was going through his filmography as a director, I found very few of these big EuropaCorp action films were actually directed by him. I probably would have liked to see kind of an average director who works for that company do this rather than Luc Besson. This doesn't need to be 2001, it doesn't need to be anything else, it just needs to be a fun, stupid action movie. And at that, it succeeds at the beginning in certain points, but it never really gets into it as much. Now, Scarlett Johansson gives a performance that's similar kind of to her Under the Skin role, in that she's kind of finding her humanity. In this, she's losing her humanity. There does feel like some overlap. It's not as strong of a performance, but there's definitely some. Morgan Freeman's the same role he played in Transcendence, I think. Choi Min-sik, I think this is his English language film debut, although he doesn't speak in English. So I wish they used him a lot more. I think he's a great actor. He was fun as the villain in this film. I think with any stupid action director, anytime they try to be more than a genre director, that's kind of the biggest fault in the filmmaking. It's like no one really wanted to see Luc Besson and EuropaCorp make a film that's going to show you the heights that human intelligence could reach. I want to see shit blowing up with a missile launcher, and I want to see Scarlett Johansson doing it with guns, and I want it to be fun. And this film kind of succeeds in that, but it doesn't fully. The heights of this film are a lot better than movies like 3 Days to Kill or Lock Up, but it's not really memorable. Is it more memorable than a bunch of films that are completely unmemorable? Yeah, sure, but it's just like, that's really, for me, not good enough. And I think EuropaCorp, you know, if you look at the days when they worked with Jason Statham and The First Taken and things like that, people remember those films because they're fun, stupid movies. It's cool that he wants to do all this with an action movie, but it just fails so miserably because he's too attached to her showing like how smart she is. Stupidly overthought a stupid movie. It came about it with a lot of dumb theory that no one really wanted, and ruined the dumb movie idea that they could have had in the first place. So if you have seen Lucy and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.